It might look like I've got antlers growing out of my head, but they are trees. You can hopefully hear at the end of the morning chorus for birds, you can hear aeroplanes flying overhead here in London, in Hammersmith, with those aeroplanes taking off and landing from Heathrow Airport. But I want to talk about something that's not particularly relevant to the garden I'm sitting in, but maybe it is, and it's edge inference. And this is in the context of a news story here in the UK that United States-based investment in the UK, big data centres, and the UK becoming a leading AI champion in the world is unlikely to happen, and particularly to do with current government policy around making oil and gas difficult to extract, because the current government is very much focused on hitting climate change targets, and that affects the amount of electricity we're allowing data centres that are going to be enormous to be used. And so I think they pulled out, and they're going to look for countries that are more willing to expend vast amounts of energy on generative AI. Now, edge inference, although it's still evolving, kind of challenges, I guess, the model that we need very large data centers to take cloud storage for AI, because essentially what happens is AI operates, if you're on ChatGPT, if you're on any kind of smart technology, AI is pre-trained, and then essentially data is constantly toing and froing from the cloud, these particular enormous data centers buried underground and in various other places. And edge inference begins with the idea that AI is trained. There's a kind of act and maybe an update of training of AI, and then it arrives on your smart device, and that smart device might be your smartphone. It could be what will become your autonomous vehicle, your car. It can be in industrial control and monitoring. And essentially what happens is the AI is gathering in its local data and is acting on that local data, and that enables an autonomous vehicle to use AI to very intelligently suddenly pull up and save somebody's life in the street. It can allow adjustment and turning on and off suddenly of industrial monitoring equipment. It can be used in security and so on. And what doesn't happen in an ongoing way is data's not constantly toing and throwing across the cloud, which of course has its own data privacy issues and challenges as well. What happens is edge inference uses edge devices, and you could take that in different ways, that a smartphone is literally on the edge of reality and needs to react locally in contextual ways around what's happening right now. That will happen in health monitoring. That can happen in an intelligent-based heart monitor that's happening. It can happen actually in your kind of devices that might be literally controlling your heart as well, and other parts of your body to keep you alive. Pacemakers being examples. So edge devices and edge inference, and the notion of inferring from local conditions and not relying on the cloud, kind of potentially could give the UK, if it invests in that, and I think that might be the policy, in a new form of AI control that might also turn out to be more environmentally friendly, though that remains to be seen, because I have a sense that there's still going to be a large amount of toing and froing to cloud for reasons of surveillance and that kind of thing. But in principle, there is this notion, therefore, that AI can operate locally on edge devices. The challenge I have to it is there's still this assumption that AI to operate has to be pre-trained, and when it's at its worst, on a whole load of slop, which it constantly has to be updated with and retrained. And that is very poorly curated, which leads to AI needing to impersonate the sort of behaviours as it gambles on the next moment based on these enormous data sets, which I think, and research suggests, may be very questionable, because they're trained on us and they're trained on historical data, and they're not very good at updating edge devices in real time at the moment. And I've been suggesting, and you can watch some of my other videos, of a radical new way of doing AI, I'm not the only person, I'm sure. We discover these thoughts all the time, but the notion that AI actually begins in a kind of childlike, innocent state, even as a blank sheet of paper, which would be very good for edge devices, and they would take a while to ramp up. They would incubate, they would get stronger and stronger, and it gives us the opportunity that their core coding can be a bit like kindergarten, where we core code them to behave morally, and it becomes part of their fundamental algorithms in some ways, that there would be founding algorithms that are not inputted into them, they're not inserted into them by pre-training, but they are kind of, let's use words like nurtured, they evolve. And there are risks around that, and we need to look at what that looks like. But then what also happens is AI doesn't evolve into a being. It doesn't evolve into an impersonation of a human being or some form of alien being that might way enhance us. It would turn out then that, for example, on an edge device, and I think this is what happens, is AI is not a being called Fred or Alexa. AI simply becomes a process. AI might be more akin to atmosphere. AI might be just one process that regulates, as in a pacemaker, not necessarily connected to constant cloud data, but has its own fundamentally founded raison d'etre. Its kind of core purpose is simply to regulate heart and keep it safe. Now, it might be that we can still take over, and that is the equivalent, I guess, of if a child is running out into the road, you can run out and pull it back. And also we can morally update ourselves in all kinds of ways, because we learn, and these devices will learn locally. And so AI might simply be one part of a process, and it will be inherent. It won't be necessarily something we even notice. It might be the engineers that notice it, and it might be the self-healing AI itself that might be able to heal parts of its inner workings that are inherent. Or it could be that one AI fixes another, and there might be servo AIs that go around essentially a bit like maintenance people maintaining a building, or in smart buildings, as say, they self-heal. This is all for the near and potential distant future, but it redefines AI as not evolving into an entity that we can or cannot trust. It could be that AI's agency doesn't evolve beyond certain moments and can't evolve, and that keeps us safe. Now, all of that is different to the notion that AI is always centrally located in data centers, that somehow the data is being harvested, and models would have to change because it's usually harvested for the targeting of advertising and for corporate reasons. But from the inherent nature of AI itself, if it were free of those things, if it were more like, let's say public service rather than private profit, and we'd have to look at how that funds, is edge inference would be a brilliant way for AI to first be curated, secondly be bounded. AI then becomes part of our ecosystem, not in ways where it needs to evolve into high agency kind of alien beings. We don't need to create androids and robots with AI that are constantly linking back to control cloud centers. We could imagine it very different. It could become, let's use some words, it could become locally deft. It could become locally skilled. Wisdom could be local. It could be immediate wisdom. It could be that AIs are connected up to share that wisdom, but not necessarily in any way hard baked in from the start to evolve into places where they take over, where they usurp. Now, that creates mysteries about AI, because there are lots of views about AI, particularly from large language model kind of backgrounds, where the thing spins out of control, where the thing, due to the vast amounts of data and the complexity of the agency that might evolve, are things we can't control them or predict. And that's when the science fiction nightmare scenarios come about. But what if AI were as simple as a gadget? What if AI simply had local processes that were more minimum? What if that was the beautiful thing? And what if edge inference is the way forward to AI, rather than the notion of 10 by 10 mile wide data centers that are all about the control, I think, of the few of the many?